we're gonna keep it loose here. We're gonna make this as group oriented as possible. The caption or the heading of what I want to go over to do today is basically an adjunct of what we just went over, which is building tomorrow today. And it's the same kind of idea, which is what I want to do here is kind of go over some of the similar things we've gone over to. Is what are people doing now to prepare for that next 5 to 10 years coming into the future? It's a broad stroke question. I know there's so many different types of business models that go on in this space. Gajik, when you were just talking about Public in the blockchain sector, I've seen the name before, but I've never really heard of the company. Can you tell me a little bit more about how it works?
Yeah, sure. I was just giving the talk and discussing YouTube model. And I was suggesting that YouTube is moving from being a user-generated content space, which it was built for and by, and also now, favoring 1% of top channels out of 31 million and distributing $8 billion revenue that they distribute out of 15 billion to only those major, channels. And I was trying to ask you a question: how much are you earning? So Public is a space for you to own as a channel, content distributor, channel creator, and author, because this is the ecosystem for you. It's a protocol level solution on which you can build any business logic, and where we share 100% of revenue back to the members. So it's the model is advertising. It's native content advertising model, where the advertiser, you become an advertiser because you boost your content like anywhere else. And whenever there is a realization, so you put like self-advertising mode, and with realization, this money goes into the ecosystem. So every 10 minutes, everyone earns. So you have a digital wallet the moment you sign in, and it's a tradable token. So if you know Steemit experience, the tradable token was not there for, from the start. There was no blockchain and so on and so on. The blockchain itself was very heavy. So this is a real solution where you have a very light and very good throughput original blockchain on POS, and you have a distributed storage, a native solution that works with blockchain and guards the clarity and bad actors, the network. And also you have channel nodes who are the real distributors, and they all work in concert together to deliver the content. So we give IDs to each content. So if you look into the content, any paragraph becomes a separate content. So anyone taking it from your content or a photo or anything, you get attribution and you get the earnings, because we are dealing with the world which is 95% online, content, which is free, and the monetization is the ads. And there is not enough money for anyone to earn. 200 million sites and blogs, they are earning $60 per year. So, and I don't blame YouTube or any others, taking a big chunk, because there is not that enough money, to sustain these huge, environments that they are creating. So this becomes a sunk cost for them, and they have to run to keep it, because they outed you from the channel. Now TikTok is coming in and so on and so on. There are many opportunities, but you need your own space where you are the owner. So you don't own Twitter. You work 100, hours a day, a week, or a day. Some work 100 hours of the day, but you don't own it. It's a platform that is taking your, energy and your value and translating into something else. So I think it's time for, we delivered really a solution that is working. And I'm happy to inform that we have just brought in like a channel, which is Spanish 4,000 bloggers from Spain with 63 million followers. And this is their space. They own it, everything. So that's Public.
Yeah, brilliant sentiment. The idea that a lot of people could be earning. I mean, even in Steemit's early days, I saw people in Venezuela earning more from posting on a day-to-day basis than they would from almost any other job that they could get in Venezuela. This type of distributed network effect, where you are part of the company, and to some degree, or at least like your ownership of the tokens that you're rewarded with, because the real network effect of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, this came, like you said, from the original content creators and the distributors themselves. I agree with you. I think that we're moving down this path. We've got, what is it? Hive, EOS is working on Voice. Jeff is, Katurkus has Uptrend. So we see some of the early beginnings of this, where the competition will lie, and how they'll be able to kind of stand out from one another. Now, Keith, are you there, Keith? I like your glasses and your photo here. I want to hear what Keith has to say.
I am here, but I'm totally distracted getting ready for the session. So if you ask me what I think, you have to ask me a fuller question now.
How are you preparing today for the next 5 to 10 years tomorrow?
Well, you know, it's all context specific. I am 65 years old, so I'll be 75 years from now. And it's an interesting understated fact, but the world I live in, which is Silicon Valley, is incredibly ageist. So the ability of me to walk into a room and say, I've got this big idea has declined recently. So that drives you to be incredibly independent-minded and self-sufficient when you try to take on big things. So mostly what I'm doing is spending this time trying to contemplate the biggest change I can help make in, let's say, the next 10 years. And then beginning to articulate what that would be and build a team around it.
Do you have any like glimmers of that vision yet? Like some early rough sketches?
I have more than that. There's a website which I'll talk about in my session called ubinetwork.org. And basically it's a cynical innovator's take on how to make universal basic income happen without government help.
So I like this idea. You know, I think building models that incentivize the everyday citizen for the work that they do. You know, I started off doing a lot of internet marketing when I was younger. I was going to say when I was younger. Sorry, Keith, I'm still young, right? But the point of this is the transition from, as Gajik was talking about, you know, Facebook owning the content that I'm producing, or YouTube kind of having control over the content that we're producing. There are a lot of the times the ones that take the benefit of the network effect itself. The blockchain sector is allowing for people to, I guess, own the underlying protocol of whatever company is being built. It's a fascinating thing to see, because I've questioned whether universal basic income could become or could equate to something like, oh, hey, look, because I'm on Facebook, I'm posting every day, I get a X amount of likes every day. I wonder, you know, the question is, what would that equate to for the average person? You know, even my grandma at the time she was posting all the time. Like, I question how much money one could make based off what I'd seen with things like Steemit and Hive in the past as well.
Well, you know, if you think about it, let's take the word work and compare it to the word effort. And let's assume that work is paid employment, where somebody agrees to give you money in exchange for your time and effort. I don't know about you, but if I was to look at my effort over a week, only a proportion of it is work. You know, a lot of it is effort that is unpaid. And by the way, I'm privileged. If I ask the same question about my mom, who has passed away, but for most of my life, brought up 5 children with massive effort and never got paid. So effort is a universal human characteristic, and it's unrelated to money. So the often quoted thing that says people will only work, for money, clearly isn't true. Otherwise, there'd be no such thing as hobbies or helping people, or even academia, because academics don't get paid that much, but they're responsible for most idea production. So it feels to me as if effort can be rewarded. And what you need to reward effort is the person making the effort has some way of receiving a reward. And, today those things are called digital wallets. And then secondly, you can spend the reward on stuff. And so I think, what we have right now is what I call an unborn child. An unborn child is when all of the elements required to do something exist, but it hasn't been born yet. Uber was one of those. Airbnb was one of those. It feels to me as if universal income is one of those. We can produce digital wallets, we can produce currencies, we can produce, we have rewards and coupon systems that allow you to walk into a store and exchange actual products in return for coupons or points. Everything that exists, when put together, would create a universal income network using blockchain, obviously, and for transaction management. And you don't need permission to do it. You could just do it.
Yeah, God, I wish we had more time for these conversations. What the first big prominent word that comes to mind is deflation. Are we going to be able to basically outpace the exponential curves in deflationary technology to the point where maybe 10 years from now, if I have an almost infinite energy device, how do we reward effort based off the ease of which it is to produce something? Just a thought in my mind. Does anyone else want to jump in and share their thoughts on how what they're doing today to prepare for the next 5 to 10 years into the future, and what their business model is, who they are? It's just us three. Carly, you're new here. How are you doing today? She's going to tell me the same thing Keith said. Busy.
She's making a coffee. Depending on where in the world she is, it could be a glass of wine.
Okay, so let's jump back into that. Well, what do you guys think about the deflationary nature of technology? Are we going to be able to, at what point does it just become a token of gratitude? I mean, we know that a lot of these cultures used to use cacao or shells because it was just a thank you for this thing that helps me. But in a community, there was no real need for money. If we are going into an exponential curve in technology, are we not then moving into a deflationary nature where income might almost be unnecessary due to how much energy we can create from these models?
There's a great science fiction novel written in 1939. It's called For Us the Living. A friend of mine pointed it out to me last week, and I've been reading it. And the short version is a guy gets killed in a car crash in 1939 and wakes up in 2083 and has to deal with all the changes. And the biggest change that's happened is everyone in the world gets something called a heritage check. The word heritage is a great positive word. So it's not charity, it's heritage. It's your right as a human to get it. And that heritage check covers the basic needs of life to a reasonably high standard. And then in the novel, the woman who rescues this guy takes him to her apartment, and the way she gets the ability to consume things over and above the heritage check is once a week she performs a dance to a flat screen. And she spends the whole week creating the dance, and then it's a 15-minute dance, and her wallet gets filled up with additional purchasing power by the viewers as she's dancing. This flat screen is basically Zoom. So it's an amazing novel. And then this guy does the economics of deflation and explains that You know, the only confusing thing about the economy is the money layer. It's not at all confusing if you look at human beings producing stuff, both products and services, and other human beings wanting to consume that stuff, products and services, and exchanges happening. The reason it gets complicated is in the middle you've got banks who, for example, take $100 from you and lend it 3 times to 3 other people, thus creating 3x fake money using credit. And it all
I think that's about what we're at now. We're at about $280 trillion in debt to $80 trillion in GDP at the moment. I think it's like 285 to 85 cents worth of productive value.
There you go. Now, what if you just basically move beyond the banking and credit system? You can almost imagine an early version of this would be central banks still exist. People get these heritage checks. Everyone's their own custodian because everyone has a wallet, so you don't need banks. And you give each other rewards for stuff that you benefited from. And you still have to consume stuff. You still need food, you still need a house, you still need to get from A to B on occasion, and so on and so forth. All of that real economy is equal to 1 times human effort annually. That's real GDP, and it's much bigger than GDP, by the way. If you calculated GDP that way, it wouldn't be 85 trillion, it would be 200 trillion.
Go for it.
Yeah, I can add to that. I think as you finish with GDP, I busted one of my meetings in one of the large corporations when I said that the public economy is going to be 100 times of the corporate economy, GDP-wise, and maybe not 100, but maybe much more. You just named the number. I think it's going to be much bigger. And we have this notion of doubling the GDP of the world every 2 weeks and so on and so on, and that's because of technology that we got. I think the other notion that we are going to have scarce resources soon, I don't agree with it because if you remember the 7 floors of stores or 10 floors of floors full of everything that no one was buying, so over I think we are going to get more rational about anything that is going to come after. But back to the technology, I think there is a very interesting shift that is happening. That when it was part of the corporate, monopoly, building, corporate, systems that were licensed and so on and so on, milked. Now the corporations are realizing that if they don't go open, then they have no chance. I was just participating in one of the, blockchain meetings organized by EY, and I'm former Anderson EY person, and I was shocked to realize that this company has become a technology company. So they are building codes. They are building, they are doing research into it. They're contributing to open source code of Ethereum. Not that I would invite them to come to our code, but most of the codes is becoming open source now because they have to support larger communities. And without trust, you cannot, by closing borders in technology, you can't, make it available or let it speak to other things. We are so much interlinked. So this the technology should speak to each other as well. So we will see in coming years that, everyone is joining to create much, more open technology spaces where everyone is, welcome and contributions are welcome. And our idea is also to remunerate that work. So open source is usually not remunerated, but if you can put also the metrics where by reputation and your contribution, you can get also remunerated, then that can create a huge and hell of a lot of different, implications. So people will start building numerous of applications, and you mentioned platforms. exactly. That's what is going to come. So this movement, I think, is unstoppable, and this will create. There is no way to imagine what is coming next, because when I talk to the kids now, we have like this movement. It is called Root in Armenia, and in all conferences, these kids are like taking the floor. They are taking over everything. They come with robotics. They come with. There is another space which is called Tumo in Armenia, and the whole country is going through this, and the kids come. There are several floors, and you have to advance from one floor to the other, and so on and so on. The way you advance technologically, you advance the floor. So, and this is you don't feel that there is Silicon Valley or any other spaces. These Silicon Valleys are going to spur in the mountains, in most remote places, and because this is the future, and the kids are, this is their alphabet, this is their way of learning, and they are living. So they are much faster, and these kind of ecosystems are going to be much more less costly and more naturally. So I would say that definitely it's going to be a utility, but not only technological utility, but the rest of the world. So I think we are moving into homeless societies. We don't need homes anymore. I think there should be just services that we will consume, and we will have everything, no clouds, no, you can just, you said 3D printing, so you can just push the button and you will have your new outlet, and you can design it from the scratch, and so on and so on. So I think it's yeah, definitely we are moving into space where the corporate grid, moving from profit to appreciation, where we really join to create the appreciative, GDP that is composed of all the value that we create, and it's appreciated. So no one is left out. Everyone is in. Everyone is an owner. So then we don't need really money. We don't need. There could be exchange without anything. Exchange on all level. I can really exchange my knowledge and be paid by anything I want to go take. And it's not a capital communism, I think, if you like, but I think it will be a rationalism, rational economy that is coming, and public probably is the good name for it.
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to see open up in this next few years too is a bit more of an artisanal scientific approach. Right now with this COVID-19 nonsense going on, it's really difficult to pull through the data and find sensible, logical, scientific reviews that aren't incentivized. Like if you look at remdesivir versus hydroxychloroquine, here in Costa Rica, we've been using hydroxychloroquine with zinc, and we give it to the patients right away. And our mortality rate here is 0.5 or 0.05, very low in comparison with the rest of the world. Whereas everything I've looked at from the United States is giving it to iatrogenic patients that are like almost close to death. And when you're dealing with a virus, it makes no sense, because the virus needs to be stopped replicating in as early as possible to have any like positive effect. I would love to see some like open source stuff where we're doing more tests for chaga or these traditional medicinals that we know have antiviral, protozoal, anti-inflammatories. Most of this stuff is incentivized by the scientific community for people that are interested in coming to a specific conclusion. So remdesivir, all of their trials are doing really well, but if you look at who's on remdesivir, like it's 8 different people from Gilead. Like, okay, well, I see why this $1,000 a dose medicine in the United States politics is doing better than the $1 per shot of the hydroxychloroquine that's working in Costa Rica. And the fact that they're doing the science in Costa Rica and using zinc, doing it early, where in the United States, they just seem to ignore all of the necessities for the scientific endeavor, for the Socratic method to come through apparent. Like that's what I'd be the most stoked about, is kind of like an artisanal science where you can do like kind of blind placebo effect trials somehow through the internet by getting a bunch of people to try stuff or at least record it, so you have some anecdotal evidence as to if these things work or not. You know, and there is that anecdotal evidence for hydroxychloroquine. We see that a lot of, out of 65,000 patients that had lupus in Italy, like 60 of them got COVID-19. It's like, okay, well, these are people that are taking hydroxychloroquine all the time, right? So we see that there's anecdotal evidence that this is working as a prophylactic from day one. Yet again, the politics in the United States has drastically obfuscated the conversation of free market. Like, I guess it's free markets in general, isn't it? It's free market capitalism where you and I could trade. We want to use Litecoin, Bitcoin, it's up to us. But free market science, where there's funding that goes to people that study things with a scientific rigor, that are not incentivized by producing a particular product. Because I have a large belief that right now, if you were drinking chaga, you might never get this virus because of some of the antiviral aspects, like the betulinic acid inside the chaga. Yet no one's testing that. I would love to see that kind of like grassroots fire start, and people really jump out into the field to try to produce something that's not a medicine just for sale. That's a medicine to work and find things that are more beneficial, that are not just based off the monetary incentive to create something. I think open source blockchains would help that, like a blockchain for scientific discovery, so that you could be rewarded regardless of if you have big investors, and you can produce scientific data regardless of if you have that big funding and backing that says, hey, look, here's the conclusion we came to. I mean, it's a much longer conversation, but those are some of the things I'm looking forward to as well, guys. This idea of just the way we distribute information, because it's essentially the new oil. That's I guess this is pretty much a wrap for my chat. Thank you, guys. Gajik, Keith took off. Everyone else that's in the chat here, I hope you guys enjoyed listening. If you're not listening, you're lost. No. I'm probably going to jump on. Who's on next? Who's on first? I think. Emilio. He's not even in here yet. So let's see. Who do we got? We got Jose. Jose, are you there? We'll go one at a time. Gajik, we'll just pull through the names.
Me, yes.
How you doing?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, well, we've got a few more minutes before Emilio jumps in. However quick or not quick you'd like to answer this question. What are you doing today to prepare for what's coming over tomorrow, like the next 5 or 10 years?
In which area?
Well, for you,
business.
This is
business.
Yeah, for you. Life, it could be. You're taking more time to meditate every day. It could be anything.
No. I try to reinvent myself, because my business model was just destroyed thanks to the coronavirus. So I have to find new ways to. I have to be entrepreneur style. I have to reinvent myself. I have to find new business models. So I'm in Spain, and I worked a lot with German companies, and I had to fly to Germany, and this is over now. So since I want to still live in Spain, I have to now create services from here for German customers. So I'm trying to create business models, or find business models which are working in the future. But what I learned from today, for example, I want to do more meditation. Yes, I want to do. And I also do it, and already doing more meditation, but I also want to start now intermediate fasting. These are the things which I learned, and I'm trying to sharpen the saw, to improve myself continuously. So
perfect. Yeah,
what you want to hear, but it's nothing concrete, nothing what you could nail down. But in general, I try to be open and try to find interesting business models and try to sharpen the saw continuously. But this is something you should always do. It's not only now during this crisis. You should always try to always improve yourself. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think the meditation aspect of of the work-life balance is drastically overlooked. This year, I had the privilege of meeting Naval Ravikant while we were at an ecstatic dance in Bali, and I ended up doing like a group meditation with them, sometimes twice a day. And there was a moment, one of the 2 days there, where we sat about an hour and 45 minutes in the morning and about an hour and 45, 2 hours in the afternoon. And the processing power that your brain goes through to like deal with stuff that we haven't really dealt with is just unimaginable. So once you kind of catch up with, he made it like checking your email inbox. Basically, you've got all these unchecked emails, and when you sit down and meditate, you go through and you get to kind of revise and answer all these questions that hadn't been brought up in your mind yet. Meditation has changed business for me because it allows me to do something without having to leave where I'm sitting, because I can accomplish a lot just by being present in that moment with myself, if that makes. I know a lot of big business gurus suggest meditating, but we're like, well, how the hell is that going to help me close a client or get paid? But it's an incredibly powerful self-development tool to make steps without actually having to go anywhere.
What I realized is during meditation, you get sometimes interesting ideas. So
yeah.
It's in the meditation when there's silence, when your subconscious can talk. If you're continuously reading mails or continuously busy in your head, then your subconscious, or let's say creativity, cannot come up, cannot flourish. You need to be silent in your head in order for creativity to speak up. But also silent outside. Silent outside has to be well calm in your house or in your room, and then also silent inside in your mind. Your mind has to be very peaceful, and no ideas should flow around. And it's then when creativity can speak to you.
Yeah, very well said. Spirit, the idea that there's some type of spirit to this world, I think, is vastly overlooked. But when you settle your mind down, it definitely brings you great ideas. The company that I started, it came from basically a long meditation process. Three of my business plans that all worked very successfully came during either some type of psychedelic trip or meditation.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
We're waiting for Emilio to jump in here, so I guess it's kind of
the next speaker or the next speaker?
Yeah, it's Emilio's the next speaker here, but he is not here yet. From Guatemala, the importance of having space. Well, I guess we'll try again. Does anyone else want to give us some insight to what they're doing today to prepare for tomorrow in the next 5 to 10 years until Emilio arrives with his chat? We've got a very, very excited sharing group of people here. Well, I could play the guitar for a few minutes until he shows up. Just give everyone some sweet background music. Better than silence, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, I guess why not, right? Gajik, what do you think?